How you doing? I just then came off presenting a guest session for one of Australia's leading men's business and lifestyle coaching programs on my thesis on the state of play of personal branding in 2025. Now, if we haven't met or you don't know who I am, my name is Daniel Mamba. I'm currently the head tutor and 2IC of an online education program called Time to Build, founded by friend and colleague Tom Nosk. And we help creators build powerful personal brands and scale a digital offer to 250K and beyond. This was a bit of a different audience to present to, predominantly made up of business professionals, some people who are senior in their career or business founders. But I believe that a personal brand has a value for everyone. So in this session, I was invited to share just a few high-level thoughts on what's working and what isn't. So based on this feedback that I got from the session, I thought while it's top of mind and I still have some recency, I thought I'd share it in this after hours encore session for you, my YouTube audience, and anyone who's going to be seeing this in the future. Hence why I've got my candle, I've got my peppermint tea, some late night vibes, really set out here before I plan to go to sleep. But because I just want to get the message out to you guys, I thought it'd be best to do it while it's top of mind. This isn't going to be a hyper optimized video. I'm going to loosely be following the slides that I have presented and pop them up on the screen as a point of reference. So feel free to kick back, put this on in the background if you're doing something, and hopefully you can get something of value that will help reimagine your relationship with your personal brand going forwards, and how you can future-proof your personal brand so that it's actually sustainable for you to maintain, creates real connection with your audience, and is something that can create real leverage and scale for whatever you want to do in the future. So at a high level, the two ingredients I think that is really cutting through right now in the personal branding space is number one, having a magnetic digital presence, one that is now based on pull and not push marketing. Push marketing is kind of the high pressure stuff, the real direct response sales psychology, getting someone on a call and kind of inducing them to buy, rather than more of the pull, which is creating an environment where people want to buy. Inherently, you and I, we probably have a pretty high guard when it comes to going online nowadays, because we feel like everyone's trying to shill, everyone's trying to push something onto us. But we don't usually have an issue handing over our credit card if it comes to purchasing that holiday or buying a set of clothes or buying something from a brand that we really love and adore. And I think personal brands that create that same feeling where you want to engage with someone, you want to exchange your currency to be around their energy, their presence, their guidance, their expertise is what's going to cut through. Secondly, when you pair that with a scalable offer, that is a scalable digital first offer, that's going to be the keys to the kingdom. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. Two of these you may have never heard of, but just something to start, percolating in your mind. Adam Sullivan behind EBT, I'd say he's a pretty good example of it. Just over 700,000 followers. He keeps it pretty darn simple with straight value about how to lose weight through absolute basic principles of caloric deficits. But he has such a magnetic brand by finding thousands of creative ways to say the same message over and over. He has an audience of raving fans, and yet at the bottom of his funnel, or the offer that he actually has, at least his front end offer from what you can see on his website, it's just a weekly nutrition coaching plan or a nutrition and training coaching plan, $72 a week or $95 a week. And yet this business that he's been generating is, at least at this time, so this was a snapshot 11 months ago, so it's probably even higher from now, is doing $1.5 million a month, right? They're just having a magnetic character, a magnetic presence, pushing a lot of content into a really simple subscription offer that obviously his audience and his fans adore and are getting a lot of value from it. Nick Sarev, I'm getting a bit of a business crush on this man because he has managed to crack it, and he's done so in such seemingly a fluid and simple way. After his experience of running and scaling his own AI automation agency, he teaches others how to do the same. And so he shares it all the way, no gatekeeping, on his YouTube channel. You can look it up. It's over 205 subscribers, at least at the time. And he leads them, or invites them all, to a subscription community on School, which teaches others how to do the same. He literally near guarantees how to get your first customer within 90 days because he has such a prolific process that he's proven with hundreds of results over and over for others out there. And lo and behold, it's generating $335,000 US per month. And he's running it as a one-person operator. No VAs he's outsourcing to, no team or crazy overhead, just himself, just his school, platform fee, and a number of tools that support him optimize all of his customer experience and customer onboarding. Pretty simple. And then Alex Hormozi, the bearded man you probably couldn't have avoided for the last 3-4 years of social media. 4.1 million followers on social, at least I should say that's on his Instagram. I haven't even factored in his other channels. And recently he broke records by selling a $29 book. Now you might see he did have a bundle We had a big bundle of books all pulled together, 199 physical copies of a $6K US package that had a number of very interesting perks. And in the process, was able to hit a Guinness World Record of the fastest selling record of non-fiction books, 2.1 million copies sold in 24 hours, the previous record being held by Prince William and Barack Obama. So now we're getting at a point where personal brand builders in the business space are exceeding the influence and the impact of royalty and of presidents, which I think is a pretty telltale sign of where the future is going, and that I don't think this is slowing down anytime soon. The one caveat I do want to mention if you're watching this, and this is where I think a lot of the internet gets it wrong, they always try and immediately deconstruct, break down, and copy and emulate exactly what these individuals are doing, but they're missing a fundamental point. We could all do the exact same thing, use the same scripts, have the same 1,000 slide decks that Hormozi presented over multiple live streams, or use the same words that Nick Sarev has, or try and make the same content that Adam Sullivan, EBT, does. But we would all get wildly different results because, my friend, the stark reality is that doing is different to being, and being precedes the doing. Don't want to get too woo and esoteric, but there is a real, undeniable truth to realizing there are times in your life where you may have copied and modeled others out there because it's what we do as humans. We have a monkey see, monkey do complex. We follow our parents when we first start growing up, and then eventually our teachers, and then our peers, and then others all around us. But it takes a little bit of time for your identity to start closing the gap and embodying the person where that is a natural byproduct of who you are, because of all the reps and all of the work and all the repetition that you've built up in becoming the kind of person that just does that effortlessly. And so your success in this game of building a scalable offer that is, driven from a magnetic digital presence, really comes down to what I'll always say is becoming the person that creates the most trusted scale, or at least in your category, in your niche, in your industry. It's not the most, there's always going to be a race for the top, but becoming the person that in the eyes of your audience, in the eyes of your avatars, your clients, your students, your customers, you become that clear, no-brainer choice because they have built the most trust with you. I really think personal branding is ultimately just a game of building trust at scale, and you build trust through building relationships. We know how to do it offline, it's intuitive, but offline, it can sometimes feel a little bit more vague. We sometimes over-engineer it or overthink it and kind of forget to understand that at the end of the day, if you think about your relationships or the strength of your brand, it's like so many people are trying to sell when they're like a 1 out of 10 in terms of familiarity or trust. And that's why a lot of sales psychology is intended to try and push you against this continuum until a client or a prospect is ready to actually buy here at, let's say, stage number 10. But relationships with people are really on the same basis. I mean, sales, marketing, persuasion, whatever it is, it's building a level of connection and rapport with another individual. And so the key to doing this in the digital age we're in 2025 onwards, is through content. Oh, how good is a peppermint tea? It's through content, which is pretty obvious. It's what you're consuming right now. It's how we're engaging right now. And hopefully, or depending on how far or how long you've been watching this for, we may be having some form of relationship at the moment. And you can also go do the same with those in your audience in a similar way. You might be asking the question, how much content? How much? And it's a bit of a how long is a piece of string question. The short answer I give to everyone, unfortunately, to break your heart, is it's often a lot more than you think. Because if you think about your best mate, maybe your partner, your fiance, whoever you might be in a close relationship with in your life, you didn't come up to them on day one and ask them to marry you. You didn't ask that friend of yours who's now one of your best mates for life to go on an overseas trip the first time you met him or her, right? And so just like that, there's a bit of a continuum, a bit of a sliding scale of what that might look like. And I've decided to visualize it with this graphic, just if it's any help, because I know sometimes I like, having diagrams like this that remind me to play a bit of a longer game. We're on the y-axis that I've got over here. This is the level of rapport, the level of trust that someone has with you. Whereas on the x-axis, it's a bit of a timeline. There's a concept called the mere exposure effect in marketing. It used to suggest that the average person would need to see a brand 7 times before they considered a purchase. I kind of want to extend this a little bit more. And if we're talking about relationships like friends, I am banking on the fact that whether this is your first video, your 10th video, your 20th video, you'll be sitting somewhere on this scale with me. And at the end of the day, the content you're putting out is also having the same effect on those that are consuming it. You might be sitting at this scale that even if someone has consumed 1, 2, even 3 hours of your content, they are still sitting at this kind of level, that's a terrible straight line, but work with it. In terms of the level of rapport they've built up with you, they may have moved up from cold, but they're still not considering like a friend level. They're not the kind of one that like is G'd up. They've just seen you popping up in the newsfeed over and over, even if you're providing valuable content. And this is kind of something I say to avoid you feeling discouraged. You might feel like you're putting such good content out there for so long, but some people just need more time to warm up with you. In fact, most people do. Very few people are like go to, stage 1 to stage 5 clinger or creeper on you straight away. That's a good thing. But then you kind of hit this like exponential point of like terminal velocity, as I call it, where you just seem to hit this like trigger point, this kind of like boiling point equivalent. And then all of a sudden, every additional hour has a disproportional uplift in the level of rapport or trust that you are building with your viewers or with your audience. And I'm banking on this with the content that I do. It's why I'm moving away from having a short-term time horizon and actually extending the time horizon and building something sustainable. Or for the math nerds out there, not that this is actually hard maths, a level of trust per person, what this might look like is kind of the byproduct of these 3 elements. The time per interaction someone spends with you. So whether you choose to post short form content or, what the average duration is of your content, whether it might be a 5-minute video or 1-minute thread, a 10-minute YouTube video, multiplied by the frequency of interactions. So how many times are you posting per week, or how many times are they seeing you, and building that trust based on the duration of that interaction. And then more importantly, what is the perceived quality of the interactions? Is it a yay or is it a nay? Because you also want to realize that even if you're seeing them regularly or they're seeing you regularly, quite often, and you have long content or you're popping up quite a lot, but it's quite often terrible, then that's going to build in the opposite direction. That's going to be building distrust because you're not creating an exchange of their time and attention that provides them an ROI, that makes them better for having spent their time with you. In fact, they're probably thinking, I'm going to stop working with this person, or I don't feel like the quality of my time spent with them is valuable. And so if you think about it, just to get even an hour of accumulated trust, you think about that diagram that I shared a little bit before, just to hit this point over here, you need at least 6 10-minute YouTube videos, assuming they watch the entire video and they see every single one of them, or 60 1-minute short form videos. You might see there's a bit of a dilemma here. You might realize all of a sudden, oh, hang on, I know that my audience aren't going to watch every single video that I post, or the algorithm won't even surface every single piece of content to them. So I say minimum, and I include it over here, and I've just underlined it because your brain's starting to click and realize you need to put out a much higher volume of content just to get that first hour. I'm not even talking about hour 2 and number 3, number 4, but just to get to that first point. And this is why so many people quit. This is why you can now understand if you ever had a stop-start relationship with content, like I have countless times in my career in the 10, 15 years of posting content, was because I was too short in terms of my impatience. I was waiting for things to happen too quickly. I'd post under 60 pieces of short form content or under 6 YouTube videos, nothing was happening, and then I'd walk away and I'm like, Mamba, you were probably posting pretty decent content. You just needed more. People need more time to warm up with you, because you need to realize that individuals, the way you're actually consuming this right now, do it on a one-to-one basis. People show up and say, hey everyone, how you going? But at the end of the day, I know that you are watching this on your phone, on your TV, on your computer, and we're engaging in this in a one-on-one basis. I know I'm breaking the fourth wall, but I just want to be real with you. So coming up with this, hey guys, how you all going? It's like you're not actually talking to a crowd. You are talking to multiple people one-on-one at scale in whatever time or whatever they want to consume it. You want to make sure that, of course, your content has a high perceived quality. Now, high perceived quality does not correlate with high production value. It doesn't mean you have a massive crew, everything's, super dialed in. If you don't have this level of equipment or what I'm operating with, that doesn't matter. I've seen fantastic content be shot just off the phone that's always with you. That is your smartphone. But it's of the quality that your audience perceives. Quality is in the eye of the beholder, and your audience is going to be the best judge of that based on how they engage with it, if they watch it, if they comment on it, and if they're asking for more. So you might be asking the question is, how long until you or anyone trusts enough to actually make a purchase? And to save you going through this report that Google put out in 2011, in fact, I think I was lucky when I found it a few years ago. The same link I went back to has now been archived. So I don't even know if you can find this, but I got a screenshot of it. You may have heard of this rule called the 7-11 full rule. It suggested for an individual to be willing to make a purchase. This was based on a macro study done with all of Google's data based on e-commerce purchases in 2011. So different era, different buying purchases. Just want to nuance that. Suggested that an individual on average needed 7 hours of interactions with you across 11 different touch points and 4 different locations. What I'm not saying, my friend, is you need to split yourself out and try and be omnipresent across every channel, but just from a research perspective, 7 hours of interactions. So that could be a combination of consuming long form, short form emails, and all of the above. That's just to help temper your expectations. And it probably takes a little bit more time than you think, especially if you just got started. The good news is though, because so many people quit in what I coined the dip, well, I don't actually coin it. I got that from Seth Godin. The dip is that period when you've broken out, you've gone beyond that state of like, elated euphoria, and you've suddenly started realizing that it's hard just to keep going. It's that middle desert period when you're not seeing any sign of life and you're not getting any validation. That's when everyone quits. But if you become the person that is able to break through that drought, you stand on the other side where very few people are able to make it through. And that's what gets you closer to hitting that 7 hours of reciprocity, of trust, of accumulated rapport with someone. But there's a bit of a dilemma nowadays, and I want to be clear about it. To make it worse, AI is in rapid proliferation, and we do know that it is absolutely saturating and drowning our news feeds with AI-generated content, avatars, and basically slop. To make it even worse, and it's so hard to make something that is signal in the noise because there's just so much polarity and hype and just hyperbole in the news feeds. They're busier than ever with corporate brands, personal brands, like AI content, paid content, organic content, constantly fighting for your attention, as well as so many distracting options of what else you can entertain yourself with at any given moment. It's getting noisy. It's getting pretty hectic. And fatigue. Audiences like you and me, we've matured. Right? There's no longer the infancy and the naivety of like the internet 10, 15 years ago when it was really starting to get traction. Social media was kind of this wild west when if you were the first person to start posting content in a particular niche on YouTube, you were revered as the expert. Now there's millions out there all saying the same thing. We're trying to approach things the same way. And we're all a little bit more skeptical now online. We know everyone's got an agenda, or at least it feels like everyone's got an agenda. And ultimately, paid ads are rising. And even if you wanted to bypass the organic game and just go through paid ads, assuming you can get really good creative that converts well, it still costs a lot. You get really good at content in organic, or you get really good at knowing how to pay to play, or a combination of both. But fortunately, and why I'm so bullish, and for you watching this depending on wherever you're at, you don't need a large audience because you can start from absolute zero today. They always say the best time to start was yesterday, but if you are looking at this and this is potentially the kick up the butt you need because you're like, you know what, Mamba, I know I've needed to do it for a while. I know I have a message and I have a brand, I have a movement, I have a mission I'm committed to, and I need to get it out to the world. This is your time. This is why I'm rooting for you. Because your boy started from zero about 10 years ago, just posting cringe videos. As you can see, this terrible fisheye lens, recaps from travel experiences I had with friends in the meantime. And even to this day, at the time of this recording, my largest following is on Instagram. It's just over 3.5K. It's not actually large by all means. I used to think I needed 10,000 or 20,000 in order to monetize. But it wasn't until one of my mentors actually encouraged me to go up to my socials and put an offer in front of them. I'd never known what an offer was. It was basically an invitation to work with me in a one-on-one coaching capacity. I launched this program. It wasn't a bad video, I'm not gonna lie, but I was really just loosely following the outline of what he suggested that I said, and I did it. And I thought I was gonna get like 3 or 4 people to say, oh, Mamba, I'm kind of interested. I got like 50 to 60 people DMing me, forwarding messages onto other friends because I realized I built up so much goodwill and rapport from posting all this content over all the years. I'd never actually taken a withdrawal from my audience because I just kept depositing so much goodwill and rapport that as soon as I said, hey, I've got something to offer, they were like, yes, I'm finally ready to buy with you. I've been waiting this entire time. So many people told me in their comments being like, I've been waiting for you to launch something. I just didn't know what it was. And that absolutely blew me away. So you don't really need a big audience. And in particular, here's why that doesn't really matter in 2025 and beyond, because followers do not matter or do not carry as much weight as they used to. Ever since the TikTokification of social media, which in essence is TikTok's influence on eventually how Meta rolled out Reels and Facebook Reels, as well as YouTube rolling out Shorts, it's now gone from being who you follow to predominantly your interests, because the algorithms have realized if they can scrape all of the data based on your viewing behaviors, the videos you comment on, watch, replay, share, comment, like, they can serve up more videos of that nature. And if they catch you spending more time on the platform because they all of a sudden know what you're interested in, they can surface more ads to you, which helps their ad-driven business models. It's a win-win for them and a win-win for the content as well. So algorithms inherently reward good content. It's not the algorithm's out to get you, it's just your content sucks for now. And that's a lesson and a pill I still need to swallow. I'm still trying to get on my game right now, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube or LinkedIn. I know I need to improve and I'm not getting there. So I'm not angry at the algorithm. That's actually a sign for me to keep leveling up my game. If you learn how to make good content though, you will get rewarded. Content tools. There's effectively no barrier to entry right now because of how accessible and affordable tools are. You have things that can clean up and auto caption, add B-roll nowadays, like make cut down versions, schedule automatically ahead of time. It's really getting to a point where there's minimal to no excuses. There aren't as many skill-based, gatekeepers in the industry in terms of how to do certain things. All the information's available. The tools you have with the iPhone or the Android you're probably watching this on are just remarkable. And you don't need to go to film school anymore to learn how to do this stuff. And appetites are changing because audiences are craving different. We've been saturated with so many people that are just being carbon copies of one another, or saying the same things, presenting the same way, that we're looking for something that's different. And if you have not spoken, if you have not shared your authentic voice, then that in itself is different, my friend. It is the most defensible moat. The more you that you are, the more that no one can in any way replicate that, and the more that's actually going to differentiate and create a blue ocean or a category of one, that is you being you. But the amplifier above all of this is trust. That is the bedrock of it. And so I want to help build the foundation, the 3 pillars of your trust, 3 observations of what really remarkable personal brands are doing in 2025 onwards. And those 3 pillars are being relatable, being admirable, and being someone that people value. So here's how to go about it. Number 1 is that they relate to you. They can see a part of themselves in your story. And by seeing that part of themselves, they can now believe and root in your journey because they know that you came from a similar place. This is why so many of the flexing online success stories that seem to be absolutely infallible, have pure perfection, are so hard to relate to. While we might admire or wish we had their life, we kind of create this gap or this incongruence between being like, well, I could never be like them because they must have got lucky, or they were born like that, or they, had all the right things fallen into their lap. But as soon as you're able to then start sharing and showing a part of your journey, people are able to cling on to that and all of a sudden root for you because they know that you've seen life from a similar lens. You've had experiences that are shared. What that might look like is being comfortable at sharing your failures, any setbacks that you have, powerful vulnerability, not pitiful vulnerability, not woe me, but sharing places from a part where you can look back at something like a scar, not the wound in the moment, the heat of the moment, but a scar, and understand how the lessons and the wisdom you took from that moment put you onto better things. You actually saw the blessing in the curse, and sometimes the curse is in the blessing, and you have a balanced perspective on all these moments in your life. Or think about it, I have a bit of an analogy. If you were interviewed on Diary of a CEO, and you always notice on, long form interview podcasts where in the first 5 or 10 minutes, the interviewer will always ask the guest, take me back to your childhood. Before the version of you that we now know, what was it in your childhood that turned you into the person that you are today? Help us understand that. That is what your origin story looks like. You want to be able to go back to those key defining moments, those early moments in, the entire story of your book, and be like, what were those early defining chapters that kind of were the inciting incident or the catalyst to the person that you are today? Because when you share those, people can connect with those and actually relate. Secondly, is that they admire you. Be the kind of person that they want to become. This is why I mentioned relatability precedes admiration, because if they now have seen where you've come from, they now believe in themselves that they can have a similar transformation. You act like a role model. So carry yourself like it, right? In the way that you dress, the way you carry yourself, you show up, your digital presence, do a photo shoot, clean up your branding, the way that you show up and treat your content. I always think of my content like as if it's a first date. You'll shower up, you'll look good, you'll make an effort. You want to make sure that that person really feels like you're making an effort to show up, because this could be the 50th piece of content that some of you are watching. This could be the first piece of content you've ever watched from me. So I always think present your best and share your milestones as they happen, because now your audience is going to root for your successes if they also know your failures and your setbacks. And lastly, is that they value you. This is made up of 2 parts: your ability to show depth of the expertise you have in your particular field, and proof of your authority. That is that you have results not only in your own life, but lives of others that you help. It could be your clients, your students, or your customers. Because people will always pay with their attention first before they pay with their money. So your free content better be darn good. And I will say this to everyone. In 2025, you cannot be gatekeeping information anymore. When you are coming up against individuals who are now doing full courses on YouTube, high quality courses, that is what you're going up against. Remember, information is commoditized, but implementation is invaluable. And that is what people will pay for with the scalable offers you create: accountability, community, coaching templates, shortcuts, anything that helps them expedite their learning curve, because they can do it by themselves with the information. But I always joke about this. If everyone just said, oh, but information is free, well, then the whole world would probably have a 6-pack, be ripped, and in beautiful, thriving relationship. I don't want to be bleak and morbid, but if you look at the world around you, I don't think that's how everyone is right now. And this is my final thoughts here. This is what giving your best versus gatekeeping content looks like. On the left, people are expecting to consume this, and you're going up against people, like I shared before, who are giving it away, going Joff level of value, right? Keys to the kingdom, life's work, enduring legacy. But to the people who are still playing I want to gatekeep my base stuff, I want to put it behind a paywall, when you're sharing that, That's what people are going to think of you. They're going to judge you based on your free stuff. And so if they're comparing it against this, they're not going to lean in your direction anyway. And if you use these 3 pillars, my friend, of being relatable, being admirable, and being someone that someone values through the free content you deliver, the absolute unbelievable value, that's all you need to create a magnetic digital presence.